We can also recognize mental health issues in children by taking notes of the changes that they display. And this could be changes in their emotions, in their thinking patterns, in their social interactions with their peers or adults around them, in their behaviors, or in their learning, abilities. So let us look at emotional changes that could happen, that we could be able to observe. For some children, we would notice that they're very nervous. I've mentioned about children being fearful. We notice that children are fearful. Also, we may notice that they're constantly sad and withdrawn, and they have poor self-control. We notice that they're quite angry. If we notice that the child is getting consistently angry and being irritable, and if we notice that they are not able to tolerate even the smallest thing that could be, then that could be an indication that there is something going on. Now, also children could develop dysfunctional thinking patterns, and some of the signs that a child is engaging in these thinking patterns is when we notice that they're starting to blame themselves. Something very small, and they would go, "No, miss, it's my fault. It's me who did it. It's me who did. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." Now, however much you say, "No, that's fine. It's okay. It's not your fault," they're already blaming themselves. If we're parents, we would notice that they're taking blame for others. "No, it is because of me. It's mom. Don't mind. It's because of me. I'm sorry, dad." They're taking blame, and at times it's unnecessary. Now they have to take responsibility, but when we notice that they're overly taking responsibility for things that have gone wrong, then we have to, be concerned, because it's not their fault. And that could be an indication, that could be a sign that there is something that is going on with their mental health. Also, we would find that children are excessively worrying. Everything about them is a big deal. They're blowing up information. That is a dysfunctional way of thinking. They start thinking in unusual ways, in strange ways, and that is a sign of dysfunctional thinking. Another sign as well could be their social interaction. I've mentioned about isolation before. I've mentioned about withdrawing. I've mentioned about anger and aggression. If we find that they're quite aggressive in social situations, or to their siblings, or to their peers, then that is a concern. And that is a sign that there's probably something wrong with their mental health. If we find that they're bullying others is an indication that this child is struggling. So we have to, or something is happening around this child. So we don't have to blame them. We have to bring them closer and really know what is it that is happening. What are they struggling with? Because it's not normal to see another person suffer, and mainly for children. So if we see that is happening, that is a sign or symptom that something is not right. Also, severe shyness. I have worked with a case where a child aged 9 had been abused. There was this unusual shyness. She was very, very shy. And the teachers were concerned. Actually, it was picked on by the teaching assistant because the child was unusually shy. Now, breaking into, what was in her world and getting to know what was happening took me some time. But yes, we got there. And she managed to get the support that she needed. Let's go to behaviors. Now, children, when they're growing, they go through developmental stages, and as mentioned earlier, they could be going through some form of process where they have to learn to moderate their behavior, manage their behavior. But if we find that they're withdrawing a lot, we find that they're avoiding situations, and we find that there's destructive behavior, they're overly defiant, they're engaging in repetitive behaviors. Worked with a child who was fearful that if she didn't walk in a certain pattern in a bathroom, her mom would die. She loved her mom so much. But for her, it meant that she had to come up with some way of protecting her mom from these external forces. So she used to engage in these patterns of walking in the bathroom. And one day, one of the children noticed it and reported it to the teacher. "Miss, you've not seen this. X is doing this every time. I've seen her doing this all the time. And wow, she was engaging these repeated behaviors to protect her mom. That is a concern. That is OCD. Some children have difficulties with problem solving, but others have difficult problem solving because of other underlying factors. So we have to be aware of that. If we see that the child has been solving their problems well, and then all of a sudden they start struggling, they can't solve their problems, that is a concern. That is a sign that there is something that needs to be followed up. If they're struggling academically, I've mentioned about that before. If there's difficulties with their homework, they're not getting their homework done, their attention has been affected, they're not focusing, they're not attentive, then we need to really investigate what is happening. If we find that they're not paying attention to instructions, either at home or at school, because even at home, parents, you help children with their homework. If you find that they're not attentive, they're not focusing, they're not engaging with their homework, then there is something, they're not solving their problems as usual, then there is something. You just need to investigate. You have to pick up on these clues, be able to tune in with this child and investigate why this is happening all of a sudden. They have not been diagnosed with any learning disabilities or learning difficulties, but it's coming on now. What is happening? Investigate that. I have worked with a boy before. He was having difficulties completing his homework. He was never completing his homework at all. Now, there were factors as well, that were in the background, but it was raised and we engaged the family. That is when the family mentioned about the fact that this child does not want to do their homework because they have issues with their siblings at home. And then it came up that this child was comparing himself with the siblings, and he didn't want to show his weaknesses when they were doing homework together, and this was affecting the child's mental health. So, just to recap, changes that might occur might be with the child's emotions, their thinking patterns, their social interaction, their behaviors, or their learning.